This is my custom-built GMC Sierra 3500 HD Denali Duramax, that's a mouthful, in Offroad Outlaws, and a lot of y'all have been asking pretty much every video that I have shown this in for me to do a build breakdown, essentially, and show y'all how you can build one of these for yourselves, in, of course, whatever color and whatever wheel setup, whatever suspension setup you would like. So in this video, we're going to be going fully in-depth on this truck. I'm going to be showing y'all how the build works. I'm going to be breaking down the entire build process, including all of the vinyl work, and we're also going to break down the tune, we're going to break down the suspension setup, and if you want to exactly replicate this particular truck, that is the goal at the end of this video. So if that's something y'all are interested in, make sure you keep watching for the rest of the video. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, once we get back to the yard, or rather, we are back at the yard now, so now that we are back at the yard, our first step is going to be in the tuning. Then we're going to break down the customization. So if you are only interested in the vinyl work, skip ahead to that part of the video. But if you want to see the tune and the vinyl work, stick around from this point forward. So going ahead into the tuning, first off, we're going to break down the suspension. So in the front, we have the Baja style independent suspension, and the tune is going to be as follows. Axis width is going to be 0.06. Damping is going to be 3196 or essentially 3200. I have found that that gives us a really nice balance on this truck. Shocks are going to be 1. Shock size is going to be 1.6. I found that that was the size that looked the best for this build, but again, that is all up to your own interpretation, so if you want to go bigger or smaller, you totally can. Stiffness on the front is going to be 28,494, so essentially 28.5, and travel is going to be maxed out at 0.50. Now, moving over to the rear, this is, of course, a dually setup, and this is a solid axle Pro in the back. Now, axis width here is going to be also 0.06. Damping in the rear is 3205, essentially, once again, 3200. Rear steering is going to be none, 0.00. Shocks-wise, again, we're going to go for shock 1 because I wanted the independent reservoirs. Then we're going to move on to the shock size, and it's once again 1.6 because I found that 1.6 looked like a very realistic size to me. It does clip through the inner dually, but there wasn't really much I could do about that. It was either I was going to sacrifice the wheel offset that I wanted and go way wider than I liked, or I was going to, have the shock clipping through the tire, and you don't really see it from this angle super often, so that was a sacrifice that I was willing to make. Now, stiffness-wise, in the back, we are on 22,758, so essentially 22,700. You could either round that up or down to the nearest 10. It wouldn't really matter all that much. Travel-wise, we are 0.55 in the back, and then brake type, we are type 0, and then axle type, we are type 0. Now, moving ahead once again, just so y'all can see how that setup performs and where it is right now, I'm going to give y'all a drop test. And the game froze. Lovely. I love it when it does that. We're going to give y'all one more drop test, and it's pretty dang even. And what I love about this setup is that it can give you an even drop test like that, but even while it is able to give you an even drop test, it can also support enough weight in the rear to tow gooseneck trailers and bumper pull trailers without sagging or squatting down in the back. And what's really satisfying about this is especially watching the drop test in the front. Watch this. So satisfying to see it do its work. And the flex isn't bad either, especially considering the fact that it can tow. I mean, the rear wheel is coming off the ground at about 22 degrees, so that's pretty dang impressive. Now, onto the dyno run. This is fully upgraded, so I'll show y'all what it makes on the dyno, and let's see what it does. 705 horsepower and 1,186 foot-pounds of torque. Pretty standard, pretty average for a fully built diesel in Offroad Outlaws, but again, I wanted to make sure that y'all were able to see those numbers. Now, gear tuning. We got first gear sitting at 3.0. We've got second gear at 1.4. We've got third gear at 0.9, fourth gear at 0.7, and fifth gear at 0.6. This is, I'm going to go ahead and let y'all know right now, the gearing setup on this thing is a setup I'm experimenting with. They're very long. They're a lot more designed for top speed than they are for towing. So if you're expecting this to be a good towing setup, don't. don't expect it to be a good towing setup. This is a setup I'm experimenting with because I wanted to see if I could make this thing go faster. It's not designed in this gearing configuration. This is not the towing setup. If you want this to tow, I would shorten up a lot of these gears and I would bring them a lot closer together. So experiment around with the gearing that works for you. Now, wheels and tires wise, the wheel and tire setup, I spent a lot of time getting it to where I wanted it because I wanted it to look realistic, but I also wanted it to fit the purposes that I was going to use the truck for. So rim size or wheel size is going to be 1.4, wheel radius is going to be 1.1, and then wheel width in the front is going to be 1.3. Now in the back, the rim size and the wheel radius are going to be exactly the same, but the wheel width is also going to be, 1.3. I guess I forgot that it wasn't the same size in the back. Normally, it's not on my dually builds, but it is apparently on this one. So now that we've gone over all of that stuff, let's go back now and let's go into the customization. But I do want to go ahead and show y'all real quick that, again, when it comes to upgrades, this is maxed all the way out, and it is a fully built diesel with a stage 4 turbo setup. Now, going into the customization, body-wise, we didn't do all that much because I did do the tow mirrors because I definitely wanted those, and then obviously I have the dually fenders, but other than that, the body is fairly stock because I wanted to keep the stock front bumper and the stock rear bumper, that way they aligned with the build that I wanted to do, because again, the stock front bumper allows me to do this light bar setup with the light bars in the grille and on the bumper. Now, this is a little bit crooked, but it did that for whatever reason. It did that with me not realizing it was going to do that, and I think it's got something to do with the way the vinyl overlaps or something like that. Not sure why it's doing that, but again, maybe I'll figure that out in the future. So moving on ahead, again, the only thing I did in the body customization was the stack, the light bar, the tow mirrors, and the dually fenders. So moving into the decals, this is where things get properly in depth. So the TC Customs logo on the side, that can be, you can use the TC Customs logo or you can use your own garage, but it is 3D. So essentially what we did was we did the black layer and then we also did the gray layer underneath it, and then we offset the black layer a little bit to the left. Now up here we have the Duramax and Allison logos. You can do those in 3D if you want, but I'm going to go ahead and warn you, when you do enough text layers in 3D, they start to crash your game, especially in the design editor, so do keep that in mind. The GMC logo, I went ahead and put that right there on the front grille. And now we're going to talk about how these light bars work. So essentially what they are is they are these little, essentially, rectangle logos, or rather rectangle just shapes, and we did a black one on the back and then a sort of tan one on the front, and they don't look perfect by any means, but they are a quick, easy, simple way to give your truck realistic-ish looking light bars and auxiliary lights in the front end, especially in the bumpers and the grille. This works on any truck that allows you to paint the bumpers and grille, but this truck allows you to do it a little bit more than some of the other trucks in the game, so do keep that in mind. Now, on the other side, what I did was I did not mirror these logos. Instead, I copied them and dragged them around to the other side. And then right here, I did a reverse 3D where I did the black text on top, the gray text behind, and then offset the black text a little bit to the side. Then, of course, you have the Duramax and Allison transmission logos right there on the side of the truck. Now, the gas door right here, or rather the fuel door, because this is a diesel, not a gas-powered rig, because if I don't say that, someone in the comments is going to be like, you called it a gas door. It's not a gas door on a diesel truck, it's a fuel door. And I'm like, I know this. Now, obviously, that's really, really simple. All you got to do is do a black circle, and then you literally take the letter U, you rotate it on its side, and then you kind of just stick it right there in the corner center of the circle, and that essentially is the little it's basically like a thumb hole, essentially, in the fuel door that you can just pull when you pop the fuel door open. Now, on the rear, we did a oversized GMC logo on the tailgate, Duramax 3500 and HD. You can do those in 3D if you want, by, again, using the same strategy we did to do this. However, again, I'm going to warn you, the more 3D text you do, the more likely you risk crashing your game. So do that at your own own risk. And if you are going to do all of this in 3D, save your design as often as you humanly possibly can. I cannot stress that enough. I have lost so much work in designs in this game because I didn't save. So do literally like place, back out, save, come back in. Place, back out, save, come back in. I know it sounds tedious. I know it sounds ridiculous, but trust me, once you have one crash that wipes away all of your decal work, it will make it all worth it. I promise you that. Now, the license plate, super simple. All we did was we did a gray background. I believe we used a few different squares for that because the rectangle wasn't getting me the shape that I wanted. So we just copy pasted a few squares, and then we did the TC 9700 in blue text. And you can do it in whatever color text suits the state license plate that you're trying to go for. That's all, of course, up to you. And that pretty much covers everything for the design work on this truck. Now, if we go back, what we're going to do is we're actually also going to go to the axle paint. So the axle paint is pretty simple, the primary and the secondary. All I tried to do was I tried to match the innermost pieces to the color of the truck, and then I did the outermost pieces in white because I felt like the color contrast set the truck off pretty nicely. Now, wheels and tires wise, the tires are going to be these. They are essentially a non-branded Mickey Thompson Baja Pro, so it's entirely up to you whether or not you want to use these, but I really like them because they do really well on the rocks and they do really well on pavement, so they're kind of a best of both worlds tire. And of course, we've got them in dually on the back. And then the wheels we are using are the fourth from the right option, and we were using them without the quote-unquote beadlock ring because they technically already have them. With the beadlock ring, they kind of are overdone because you have two sets of bolts and it doesn't really work right, but we also are using the default chrome option. I've tried them in like other options. They didn't look as good, so I decided to stick with the standard chrome. And that pretty much covers just about everything that I have done to this truck. If there's anything that y'all feel that I missed, or there's anything that you want explained a little bit more in depth, leave your questions in the comments below and I will try to answer as many of them as I humanly possibly can. But that has been a full build breakdown of my GMC Denali 3500 Duramax. Again, also, I do have that repair pack in the back. That's optional whether or not you want to do it. It's entirely up to you. But again, if y'all enjoy build breakdowns like this, let me know if I have any other trucks in my garage that y'all would like to see a build breakdown on. This has been the one I have received the most requests for. But if there's anything else you want to see me break down, like for example, this Tundra build, let me know in the comment section down below. But this is going to do it for this one. And if y'all enjoyed, let me know any other thoughts and opinions you may have down there in the comments, and I'll see y'all next time.